Hey family, hey family, hey family. Welcome to Work Wednesdays with Darlene A. Anderson. I am Darlene A. Anderson, entrepreneur, personal and professional development consultant, author of Not Without a Fight, 10 Ways to Win When It Appears You've Already Lost, and your social media friend. Welcome. I'm excited about today's topic. Documentation is key. We're going to dive right into it in a second. I really have to do the business first, right? Let's get the business out of the way. If you are joining us for the very first time, I am grateful that you landed on this page. I ask that you like, share, and subscribe accordingly, and click that notification bell so you will be in the know of the latest happenings as they are happening. Now, if you're a returning viewer, you know we appreciate you so very much. I ask, if you haven't already, that you like, share, and subscribe accordingly. Okay, let's dive right into it. Documentation is key. I wanted to come out and speak about this on today because it will relate to some of the things that I've spoken about in the previous week. You can go back and check that out if you haven't already. There are going to be some words that you hear like outcomes, objectives, tasks, goals. We're going to talk about all of that as it relates to documentation and how you perhaps can utilize some of these terms and practices to help you reach your highest potential in whatever goal it is, again, personally or professionally. Okay, here we go. As a seasoned social service provider, primarily working in New York State, I've worked with various entities, federal, state, city, private, and public sectors. I've worked with various populations in need, medically, mentally, educationally. I work with people in shelters. I work with the IDD population, geriatrics, you name it, I've actually done it as it relates to working in social services as a care manager or a care coordinator, intensive case manager, all of that good terminologies, right? Been there, done that, and many of you probably can relate. The consistency, what rings in my ear that I'll probably remember when I'm 100, God spare life, is a supervisor, again, no matter what population it is, stating, if it's not documented, it never happened. Documented. How many of you can relate to that, right? Documentation is key. I'm going to tell you when documentation was key for me in my career. That was when I had to focus on performance-based services. That was when I had to produce outcomes. There's that word again, right? Outcomes. I'll illustrate the difference between a performance-based service and maybe an educational-based service or an outpatient-based service. For example, you can have two different providers working with the same concentration of services, right? Let's take homelessness. So you may have a provider that's going out, doing outreach, bringing people into a shelter at night. Or you may have another service provider that's just opening their doors talking about resources for homeless people. That say, if you're homeless, come in, we'll give you resources, right? They don't necessarily have to produce outcomes. They just have to have people come in, or they can, if they're doing a van service at night going around, we're all familiar with that, right? They just are just stating that, all right, they went to this entity, that entity, on the trains, under the bridges, and they looked for homeless people and brought them in. Whereas a performance-based agency, maybe if a homeless person is coming into your organization, you have to find them housing. Your agency doesn't get paid unless you produce housing for this individual. And that means that producing housing means a lease, it means keys, it means that they're set up. You literally have to produce this to show that they have housing in order for your agency to be paid, right? I thought about this because I wanted to illustrate what it would look like in a performance-based agency and how you can relate that to your life, again, personally and professionally, as you're laying out how you're going to pursue your goals. An example of that would be, let's take the housing, for example, perfect example. The goal is to obtain successful housing, right? That's the goal, to obtain successful housing. The objective would be to explore housing. The task that would follow under that would be all of the various things that you need to do. Those are tasks, all of the tasks that needs to be carried out in order for that person to get to the goal, obtaining successful housing, right? So again, the middle part will be exploring, the top would be obtaining, and then we're going to talk about the legs. The legs would be, okay, you're looking for housing. Do you have an income, right? That's the first thing. If you don't have an income, how do you get an income? Let's take somebody having public assistance, for example. That's their income. So if you don't have an income, you have to apply for public assistance. In order to apply for public assistance, you have to have identification. In order to have identification, you have to go to your house and get your pertinent documents, birth certificate, social security, all of that stuff goes on the legs, all of these things, right? Then once you have all of this and you have your income, then you have to say, okay, I have my income. Where do I want to live and how am I going to explore? Am I going to explore on my phone? I don't have a phone. Then we have to get you a phone. If you decide that you don't want to use your phone, you want to use a tablet, then we have to get you a tablet. And these things may be city or state provided, right? Then once we get all of these things and you find a place that you're interested in, do you have transportation? If you don't have transportation, how are we going to get you a Metro card? It goes on and on and on. Whatever it takes to explore housing is what a service provider would have to put in place for you. So we do all of that, then we explore housing. Once we explore housing, what happens once we're exploring housing? Credit checks, right? Credit checks is a big thing, or maybe you need a co-signer. All of these different things. Maybe they're looking at your background. It's a lot of different things. What's your income like? Because some places, they don't accept public assistance. Then we have to explore other forms of income. So all of these things to get to the exploring housing, to get to that goal, obtain housing. The reason why I illustrated this for you is to state, oftentimes we want things to just manifest. Just if we close our eyes or click our heels 3 times like Dorothy, they will appear. That's not the way the world works. We have to sit, document from the very beginning, from the ground up, so to speak, and work our way through those steps to get to the goal. I spoke about the foundation last week of your business, ensuring that you're putting everything in place so that you're just not going to Z and forgetting about everything from A to Z. If you just get to Z and you missed out on all the other alphabets, it's not going to sustain itself. You're going to fail, right? The same thing. I've just given an example of a blueprint that you can utilize to obtain your goals. Sometimes people don't know where to start. They just sit back and say, I want to do these things, but they don't understand that those thoughts require structure. Documentation is key. I invite you to take the time to sit down and really plan out your goals and think about what it will take to obtain them. Maybe it's accountability. Maybe it's support. Maybe it's going out and researching more and then coming back to the drawing board and saying, okay, I researched, this is what it's going to take to obtain it. There's something else that I'm going to speak about in the weeks to come, and that is reevaluation. That's looking at all of the things that we're doing to ensure that it's in alignment with the goal. Because there are times where we can put all of these tasks in place and it has nothing to do with the goal, and we're just lost. Like Alice in Wonderland. So in order to prevent that from happening, go back periodically and look at what you set out to do and ensure that the task that you're doing, again, is in alignment with that. If you reach the end of this video, I appreciate you so very much. I ask again that you like, share, and subscribe, and I hope to catch you guys out here on Focus Friday. Until that time, be well.